Welcome to Bytes of Code. In this video we're going to be taking a look at libraries and how to import and use libraries in Python. Specifically we're going to be taking a look at the random library. That's the name of the library. So when we think of libraries, we can think of actually like a physical library. In a physical library there are a lot of books, and so in Python there are all these books, and what these books have are different functions, different types of code that we can use. Python doesn't give us every single code or all the libraries or every book immediately, because if we were to have every book, every library, then it would be very inefficient. Python, the programs would become very slow, take up a lot of memory. So Python is being a little bit more efficient, only giving us what we need. But when we need something outside of what we're given, we have to ask to import that library or to check out this book. In Python there are many types of libraries. This is Python's documentation for version 3.11, and this is a list of libraries in Python. Some of these libraries are built in, and we'll see some variables that we've used before. We use int and booleans. We've used text, string, but there are other libraries, calendar, time, that we need to ask Python in order to use these different types of libraries or functions. If you're maybe trying to read a file or write a file, save a file, maybe you want to use some of these file and directory libraries. There are other libraries to support zip files, compression. You're trying to compress a file or a couple of files. There's also this math section, and this is the section we're going to be taking a look at. As you can see, there are a lot of libraries, but we're going to be focusing on one specific library called random. This is a library that we want to use in order to create a random number, and there are different functions that we can use in this random library, but the function that we're going to focus on is just this one, randint. This will get a random number. It will return us a random integer, and that's what we're looking for. Now let's see how we can use this. Replik does a good job at also helping us with libraries. So the first thing you want to do when you want to import a library is you type import and the library name. In this case it's random. Once we have this, now we can actually use functions like randint inside this library. So let's do an example for random. What we're going to do is just create a random number. In order to do this, first thing we want to do is create a variable to hold this random number. So we're just going to make a variable, let's do random number. In order to use the library, we first need to type the name of the library, random, and then we do period or dot, and now we're looking at the functions from this library. In this case, the function that we want is called randint. As we took a look earlier, this function, randint, is going to give us the random number that we're looking for. You'll notice that randint takes in two parameters. If I can get it to, there it is, a and b. So these are two parameters that we pass to this function. In order to pass these parameters, we do a open parentheses, give it the first parameter. It's going to be an integer. Python is kind of giving us a hint here. A is a type of integer. It says it right here. And b also, so we're going to give it two integers. Let's do a 0 and a 10. Now what this is doing is creating a random number from 0 to 10, and then assigning that random number to our variable. Now this myRandomNumber variable will have that random number. At this point we're not going to see our number being displayed because we're just not printing it in our code. Our code only says show guess my number, please type a random number, or please type a number. So we want now to try to display the random number. So let's print the name of our variable, myRandomNumber, And we'll see that we have a number 4. And then we're going to have another number 7. These are random numbers. If we want to create different random numbers, what we want to do is change the parameters, change what we're giving to this function randint. For example, if we type 10 and 20, we will get random numbers from 10 to 20, including 10 and 20. So none of these numbers will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 because we start at 10. So another example, we can say we want a random number from 100 to 110. Now all of our random numbers will be between this range. In this case we have 107, 105, and we actually have 105 again. 106, there we go. For our guess the number game, we're going to just have 0 to 100. And this is going to actually be, let's do 1 to 100. So 1 is the minimum number that will be generated for this game. And we're going to actually also modify our print. We're going to say my random number is, and we're also going to show the random number. And we'll get an error here, and it's important to see errors. It's important to understand how to read errors because we will get errors in our code, and it's important to understand how to fix these errors. So let's read this error and see how we can fix it based on what the error is telling us. So our first line, it says trace back most recent call. It's going to give us a line number and a file name. Main.py, that's the name of the file that we've been working in. Line number 8, this is the line that's breaking. It also gives us that line here. This is the line number 8. This is the line that's breaking. And this last type error, this is actually going to give us the answer as to what is wrong. Can only concatenate str, string, not int, integer, to string. So we have a problem here with integers and strings. Let's take a look at this line. This line is actually a string plus an integer. And this is where Python is getting kind of confused because we have these two objects kind of coming together and it's not really sure what to do. So one thing we can do is called cast. It's changing this type from an integer to a string. So right before we print out this my random number is, we say, hey, by the way, just convert this random number into a string and then continue to print. And that would give us what we're looking for. My random number is 13, 11, let's put a little space, 56. So now we see that we are able to combine this integer if we convert it to a string, and then also add it to our phrase my random number is. Another thing we can do is just add a comma. This is kind of telling Python that, hey, these are two phrases, two different types of objects that I would like to print or show to the user. This will also work. Random number is 79. Random number is 7. But again, if we just use the plus sign, we're going to get an error because this is an integer kind of combining with a string, and it doesn't work with this plus sign method. So you can use the converted from an integer to a string, or you can use the comma, but at the end of the day we want to be able to show the user what our random number is. So at this point, this is actually going to be the end of our video. We'll just have a little title here. Welcome to. This is going to be the name of our game, and we're going to continue to develop this game throughout our videos. The next video is going to focus more on getting the user input, getting the user to type something in, and then determining if that's correct. Is that the random number or is it not? So that's if statements, else statements, and also user input. That's what the next few videos, maybe two videos are going to be focusing on. But At this time, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments section. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next video.